Well, welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast. I'm Joe Sanok, and I'm here with Kasey Compton. How's it going today, Kasey?
It's great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm loving this series we're doing together. You're so organized with it. It's nice. I can just show up and be the goofy guy asking you questions.
Well, I don't feel very organized, but it's a lot of information condensed into a very, very short time frame.
Yeah. Give someone $1 million practice in 10 minutes or less.
Yeah. So what questions are you going to ask them? Oh, okay. Good job.
Yeah, boom. So we covered purpose and planning in the previous two podcasts. So make sure you go back and listen to those because we're really kind of going through the order that Kasey is saying. This is how you can grow and scale quickly. Today, I know that this is going to be around processes, that this is going to be the big one that really helps people scale quickly. So how do you want to frame out processes and systems during this phase?
Okay, so probably a good place to start is knowing what a process is. In your company, as you scale, you have to have processes because ultimately that's what takes you out of the system. And, like Joe has said in a previous podcast, ultimately, you don't want the business to depend 100% on you. You want to be able to feel confident that if you want to go on vacation for 2 weeks or a month, that you're going to come back and there's going to be very little disruption. And that's kind of what I try to do, is to make it to where no one even knows I'm gone. And so knowing what a process is, and generally speaking about processes, they work to address the effectiveness of things, and your systems are going to address your efficiency. So there's one website I was looking at that had a really good analogy, and it said, if you're doing the right thing slower than what could otherwise be done, then you need to work on your systems. If you're working fast but not really getting anywhere, you want to address your process. And so I thought that was a really good
break that down for us a little bit.
Well, okay, so let me start back with the systems. If you're doing the right thing, but it's going slower than it should go, then you may have a broken system.
Okay, so you're doing the right thing. You're doing your progress notes. You're doing your billing. You're doing your insurance, but you're not getting paid on time. You're not getting whatever it is. Then it's your system that you need to improve upon. Okay.
Exactly. Yes. So you could kind of think of it like an EMR. If you're doing everything you should be doing and you're just getting paid very slowly, then it's probably an EMR issue. It's probably a system issue. If you're doing everything quickly, but your claims are getting rejected, it's probably a process issue. So the person that's sitting there working on your computer, entering in the data, is probably messing up some of the numbers, or something is wrong in the process. And so that's where you want to work on your process. And then as a default, if something's wrong and you just really don't know if it's a process or a system, it's okay. You always go back and you address your process. So that's kind of why systems are important, but processes are more of a priority. And so I like
give us more of a definition of the two differences, because in my head, I usually think of a system and a process as almost being the same word. Like,
yeah.
How do you separate those?
Well, in my mind, I think of the system being the larger component. The system being like
accounting station in your practice, or like
like an accounting system, or the hiring system, just the umbrella, the big thing.
Okay.
And then the process are the steps that you take to reach, your goal. Or
so Janet in accounting, when this happens, she hands this over to Phil in accounting.
That would be a process.
Okay.
Accounting itself would be the system.
Gotcha. Okay. That's helpful for people that maybe hadn't differentiated those two.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not like you have to know the difference between the two to
Sure.
be successful, but just knowing what that is. And then one thing, just being able to ask yourself, okay, this is working for me now, but if we triple our client load in the next 30 days, is this going to still work? And if the answer is no, then that's probably a process that you want to go ahead and modify early, because our goal in consulting is to get you to this $1 million or more practice. And so we don't want to address all of the processes as they become problems, or else we're going to be fixing problems all the time. So we just kind of go ahead and try to pick processes that are already scaled and that will work well for a lot of growth.
Yeah. Yeah. So really, if you were to double, triple, quadruple your number of referrals, can the system handle it? Almost like a stress test that banks do.
Yes.
What would break down? So we wouldn't have enough people that are answering phones. Okay. So maybe we
Right.
get someone extra in there, or we have someone that's getting trained that then we can amp up their hours.
Exactly. Yes, it's very strategic in terms of how you utilize your cash flow, how to utilize your staff, your people. And what I did is kind of break it down, the processes into. I think I made six. Yeah, just six basic processes that I thought were the most important in a scalable behavioral group. If you want me to go through
Yeah.
those.
I would love that. That'd be
Okay.
awesome.
The first one would just be the referrals process, how those referrals come in, how they're handled, how they're worked, how they're followed up with, just the whole breakdown. The second one would just be client call-ins, just the phone ringing, general questions that people may have. That's a big one. And that's one where it can go haywire quite often because, you might have an in-office receptionist and she might have gone to use the restroom and a therapist is walking by answering the phone, and you don't know, they're not going to know the answers to the questions that the receptionists are going to already have. So just having some scripts, some very clear points on if a client wants this is what they do. If they want this is where they go. Those things are very important. A process for your intake in your first session. I know that sounds like a small thing to have a whole process on, but that intake is really what is going to generate long-standing clients for your company. So you want to make sure that your clinicians are trained in how to, I don't want to use the word sell, but how to sell their service and feel confident about what they're offering to these clients and feel supported and I've just found that a lot of people really still need structure in that. So that would be one. A big one, especially for scalable practices, would be your session documentation and the quality control aspect of your company. That's huge, especially if you're taking insurance. Number 5 would just be your billing system and processes and how you accept payments. I know that sounds like a pretty straightforward thing, but when you are accepting 15 different insurances and they're all paid differently and some have to default to paper claims and, there's just a lot of things that go into play there. Learning how to interpret your aging reports. What do you do about all the claims that are denied? How do you handle those denials? That would all fall into the billing and payments. And then number 6 would be your office management and reporting. So how are you going to keep all of those components glued together? Like, how are you going to manage all of them? What's the process for accountability and just little things that you don't realize, daily reporting logs, balance sheets at the end of the day, where do they put their deposits, just simple things, but things you don't realize until you hit that point that you're like,
Yeah.
oh crap, what do I do with this?
Well, and I probably should have mentioned this earlier than now, but we're going to have Sam, our marketing person, go through these podcasts and these videos and put together a PDF that you can download that has all of these different systems that Kasey's been talking about, these 6 different processes that you need to do. And any of those you can get over at practiceofthepractice.com/resources. We have probably over 40 free downloads over there for infographics, checklists. And this is just going to be housed there as well around the $1 million practices. So if you missed any of this, if you're out for a run, if you're walking the dog, doing the dishes, your kids interrupted you and you missed the notes, those will all be over there and also in the show notes. So sorry if you took a whole bunch of notes and now you're like, dang it, I didn't have to do that. Kasey, holy cow, tons of information around processes. I know that you could, do trainings for months on this, which is why we're doing that mastermind group. If you're interested in joining the mastermind group that Kasey and I are kicking off, it's going to be starting in July of 2018. We would love to have you be a part of that. We're going to have 2 days with Kasey looking at her process, her systems, all of that at her practice, 2 days with me looking at marketing, your branding. Each month, you're going to get 2 90-minute sessions with Kasey where she's going to be teaching you for 45 minutes and then have 2 hot seats as well. I'm going to be doing a monthly Q&A as part of that. We have a private Facebook group, text support, and you also get Kasey's everything package, which is all to say that if you want $1 million practice and you want to grow and scale and do it right from the beginning, together, Kasey and I are going to help save you so much time in that process. You can apply for that over at practiceofthepractice.com/apply. Kasey, thanks so much for being on the Practice of the Practice podcast today.
Thank you.